Since 2015, Jared Stillman has rocked Nashville sports.
That team freaking stinks.
And now he's back. The takes are hotter than ever.
I mean, let's be honest, he just can't coach.
Welcome to Stillman and Company.
Stillman and Company on the 440 Sports Network, presented by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Loaded show today. More Mike Vrabel pictures have ended up in the New York Post. Plus, last night, a Spotify playlist that even I was a little shocked by. And Caroline Fenton will join the program today at 2:20, and we will get Caroline's first thoughts on the VrabelGate saga. And the reason that it's taken so long for Caroline to hop on the show to talk about this is because she got married. So the week that the story broke was the week that she got married. And I wasn't going to bother her while she was answering every question about this, that, or the other. Plus, the questions I had to bother Caroline about were her wedding related. You know, what do you want me to wear? What do you want me to say? What do you want me to do? All that kind of stuff. And I wasn't going to bother her then. Then she went on a little mini moon last week. I wasn't going to bother her then. But at some point, I said, we're going to have to discuss this. And we're going to discuss it the old Stillman and Company way with Jared and Caroline. So she will join us in about 20 minutes. I do want to start off on our presenting sponsor. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Hiller takes great care of my home. They've taken care of all of my homes for years, and they do a fabulous job. I just go on my phone to happyhiller.com. I book an appointment. If the HVAC is out, Hiller. If there's something we need fixed, Hiller. If we want to add new circuitry, we want dimming lights instead of regular lights, Hiller. Drain backed up, Hiller. It's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Happy you'll be, or the service is free. True transparency pricing with Hiller, so you know what you're getting for and why you're paying it. It's very simple. Go to happyhiller.com, which is exactly what I do. Go to happyhiller.com today to get started. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller, call the Happy Face Truck today. TDG is right. Hit the like button, subscribe, comment, get us going in the algorithm. You Stillbillies have been killing it for the last couple of weeks, and we are going to continue to do that. We have more news, I guess, in the VrabelGate saga. So first off, as soon as we ended the program yesterday, there were new photos in the New York Post showing Mike Vrabel shopping, and this is what the New York Post page 6 said, shopping presumably for his wife, Jen Vrabel, looking at buying a pristine new blue hoodie. Now, I looked at that and I'm like, that looks like an airport. And then there were other pictures in the New York Post that showed the little sky cap carts you can get where you just put in like $7 and it gives you a cart. And it showed those behind Vrabel, which confirmed that he was in the airport. He was in the Salt Lake City airport. Now, Vrabel owns a home in Park City, Utah, where he goes skiing all the time. And so my guess is, again, trying to connect 1, 2, 3, whatever, that Mike Vrabel went off to Park City this past weekend when he just had to miss day 3 of the draft. But this VrabelGate story has become such a big pile of bullcrap to a certain extent that when those photos came out today, or I should say yesterday, we had just ended the show and I thought to myself, oh my goodness, do we need to go live? And I'm serious. It was a true thought that I had of, oh my God, there are new Vrabel photos. Do we need to go live? And then I looked at it and I'm like, wait a minute. That's Vrabel shopping at an airport for his wife or for his mistress or for whomever. I don't know. No, we're not going live. That can wait until 2 o'clock tomorrow. If it was Vrabel and his wife shopping together, that'd be different. If it was Vrabel and Rossini shopping together, that would be different. If it was Vrabel and his wife and Rossini all together, which, by the way, has not been brought up by any stretch of imagination, that would be different. But it's not. And then last night, as I was trying to go to bed, all of a sudden Twitter started just going bananas with talk of a Spotify playlist that Diana Rossini shared with somebody named Mike in December of 2022, right after the Titans lost to the Chargers. Now, I'm going to put the covers over my eyes. I think I can recite the whole 7-game losing streak from 2022 right here. They beat the Packers on Thursday Night Football. They lost to the Bengals. They lost to the Eagles. J-Rob got fired. They lost to the Jags. After they lost to the Jags, they lost to the Chargers. Then Diana made that playlist. Then after they lost to the Chargers, I believe they lost to the Cowboys. No. They lost to the Texans. Then they lost to the Cowboys. Then they lost to the Jags to end the season. I think I got it right. But regardless, Diana made a playlist in the middle of that, we assume, for Mike Vrabel. Shared it with Mike. It was called Turn the Page. And it had a bunch of random crap songs on there, including songs by Def Leppard, Guns N' Roses, Welcome to the Jungle, Kiss, Van Halen, Renegade by Styx, Motley Crue, and then a bunch of Today songs. And I saw that grouping on the Spotify list. Because when people first started sending this to me, I'm like, wait a minute. Are we sure that Mike is our Mike? I wasn't certain about this. And then I'm like, wait a minute. I remember there was a Jim Wyatt story about Vrabel's birthday and the playlist they played. And the reason I said that was because I was reminded of the Luke Combs music that Vrabel played that day. And somebody on Twitter said that the unnamed Mike on Spotify apparently listens to a lot of Morgan Wallen and Luke Combs, which, by the way, the shoe fits. But I did a simple Google search, and I pulled up this Jim Wyatt story from August of 2023. Quote, the music on Mike Vrabel's birthday, the playlist was designed to please the head coach, and I must admit, Jimmy said, it pleased me as well. During the practice session, there was plenty of rock and country music blaring through the speakers. Def Leppard, Guns N' Roses, AC/DC, Motley Crue, Metallica, even some old school Styx, which Jimmy says was Renegade, could be heard loud and clear along with some Bob Seger. There was also plenty of country from Kenny Chesney to Luke Combs and even Kenny Rogers. It had been a while since I had heard The Gambler, Jimmy Wyatt said. It was all music to my ears and apparently Vrabel's too. The head coach was spotted dancing a bit to Welcome to the Jungle at the start. Guess what was on the playlist? Welcome to the Jungle. Again, Jimmy says Renegade was on the playlist. Guess what was on Vrabel and Diana's playlist? Renegade by Styx. Holy shit. It never stops with these people. Every day there's something new that ties Vrabel to Diana that, again, makes their original denials look so incredibly silly. And yet here I am, staring into the abyss of, man, people really are caught up in this story. Even me. I am so caught up in the story. I'm having conversations with Lindsay about if Mike Vrabel thinks an airport hoodie is going to make this thing go away, or, wow, look at all these songs that Diana and Vrabel shared together. I'm like, damn. Now, big picture. Who cares about a Spotify playlist? Because we already know they were fucking each other. We saw them at the hotel. We saw the pictures of them smooching at the bar. We saw the press conferences that Vrabel held last week where he didn't say it, but he said it. We all know. So all this does is just further the proof. And for me, that's kind of whatever. But once about the 10th person sent me this Spotify playlist, I noticed, wait a minute. This is an old school version of a mixtape. I'm like, oh my God. Again, who cares about the Spotify playlist? We all know they're doing it. But at the same time, this shows everybody one thing. Just like the kissing was proof of something that most people already knew and assumed, the playlist is proof of something that now I think a lot of people kind of already knew or maybe assumed. Diana Rossini is in love with Mike Vrabel. And I have said, Mike Vrabel, I believe, is in love with Diana Rossini. A shared playlist in 2022, when that playlist was made, in 2022 terms, a shared playlist is what? I'm 36 years old. Music streaming became a big thing around, I guess, 2015-ish. Now, I have never shared a playlist before. I did have a girlfriend once make a playlist on my phone, but I've never shared a playlist before. So the closest thing I can remember to this was the burned CDs back in high school. You'd be on the phone talking to a girl about your favorite songs, and I'd say, oh my God, you have to hear this. And then I'd burn a CD off my computer and bring it to school. I was a big All-American Rejects fan at the time. I still am. And I remember burning their Move Along album for a girl in high school in like 2006. And that's what this is. It's the burned CD. It's the mixtape for Vrabel and Rossini. They are in love. Which also makes this thing kind of depressing. This is a national embarrassment for both of them. And it is a national embarrassment for their families, with whom they have drug into this by their actions. And yet, the heart wants what it wants. And if you're in love, what's stopping you two from being together? And I don't know what else is to come from this, because every day it is something new. But I almost just want to say this for both of them to hear. I know it's messy with the spouses. Divorce stinks, alimony payments, joint custody. I know Diana is staring into the abyss of a new career because her old one is dead. But if Vrabel and Diana really love each other, then why don't you just get divorced and marry each other and be together? Life is short. Ultimately, I think your kids will forgive you, or at least they'll understand, because in my experience, in the end, most children just want their parents to be happy. Only little kids, which I know that Diana has, only little kids want their parents who are unhappy to be together. If you two love each other that much, and this has been going on for over 6 years, Mike Vrabel blew up the 2023 draft for the Titans, more on that in a second, to get his girlfriend a scoop. She's making a Spotify playlist as the Titans season is coming to an end and the Super Bowl window is shutting. They coordinated together those horrendous responses to the post. They could connect in those ambiente photos with such love for one another. If this is the case, then fuck it. Go be together. Because as Mike Vrabel, as all people, once pointed out to me specifically, the only people in the world worth celebrating with are the ones you care about the most. So that's my advice to Vrabel and Diana. Just go be honest and then figure the rest of it out. Topic number 2, before we get to Caroline. And this is just up my rear end. I don't know. I don't think anybody else cares about this. One thing I have been researching as far as Vrabel and Rossini are concerned is the C.J. Stroud draft in 2023. I won't stop talking about it. I won't stop referencing it. Why? Because I think it's important to know what happened on draft night in 2023. When it all happened, I tried to get to the bottom of it. And that was the moment where I started publicly losing my mind and hinting about a possible Vrabel-Rossini relationship. And I lost my shit because when it came to Vrabel and Rossini, I found it offensive at the time for a head coach and a franchise to lose out on a quarterback because he's fucking the ESPN reporter who broke the story for the entire world to know. So I want to go back to that 2023 draft. Houston had the 2nd and 12th picks in the draft. They needed a quarterback. Davis Mills was the quarterback one at the time, and they passed on a quarterback in the terrible draft of 2022. So at that point, Houston is going through their options, and it is whoever's still there between Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud and a Will Anderson Jr., who was the top player on their board, and new coach DeMeco Ryans desperately wanted Will Anderson. Arizona reportedly also had Anderson, number 1 on their board. Houston hears the Titans are interested. They decide to take Stroud over Anderson because they couldn't get sniped by a division rival at quarterback. Their original plan? Take Anderson at 2, trade back with Seattle at 5, which ended up being Devin Witherspoon, and take Stroud. Who reported the Titans' interest? Who was supposed to be in Indianapolis, but later ended up in Nashville because of the supposed trade? Oh, that's right. Mike Vrabel's girlfriend, Diana Rossini. This is from ESPN Get Up a week before the draft, or the Friday before the draft. Dan Graziano's hosting, and Diana Rossini says where she will be. Take a listen.
Diana, I believe the Colts are the team you're covering for us next week, right ahead of the draft.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Do you have any sense
that is correct, Dan. I'll be out in
Indy
next week. Yeah.
Okay, I'll be out in Indy next week. Fast forward to next week. Here's Diana.
Field, I sat with Titans' new GM Rand Carthon in his office to go over the mood of the building on draft eve, as well as try to get more information as to what they are going to do with that pick at 11. And he tells me they're really calm, they're prepared. In fact, head coach Mike Vrabel and him sat together for 2 hours and they set their draft board. They are ready to go for Thursday night. So what are they going to do with their pick at 11? Carthon tells me they're open to everything. They're willing to move out. They're willing to stay. They're also willing to move up. In fact, I spoke to some sources around the league, teams like the Arizona Cardinals, who have taken calls from the Tennessee Titans about perhaps trading up. Now, the player they're going for, Carthon wouldn't tell me what they're doing, but my sense is the Tennessee Titans have their eyes on a quarterback, and they're going to do everything they can to go get him.
Okay, so right then and there, Diana's now in Nashville. She was supposed to be in Indianapolis. She's now in Nashville because she's got the big scoop that the Titans are trying to move up to 3 with Arizona. Now, could it have been Arizona leaking that? Could it have been somebody else in the Titans building talking to Diana? It could have been. But what do you think? And that takes me back to what Charles Robinson said. Because some people were saying, well, Houston had the number 2 pick and they would have taken a quarterback no matter what. That's not what Charles Robinson, Yahoo Sports, said at the time on my old radio station. Take a listen.
The ideology between what player you selected first was based on who Arizona wanted. They knew Arizona had a super high grade on Will Anderson, so if they passed Will Anderson at 2 and Arizona decides we don't like either offer, now we're taking your guy. They figured that's less likely to happen if we just take Stroud off the board at 2. And now Tennessee goes, well, that's our guy. We're not staying in this now. When they kind of went on the clock, they're like, we got to pick the quarterback at 2 because we have no clue what ultimately Tennessee offered. We have to just take Tennessee out of the running. So we just take the quarterback at 2. If Arizona says, screw it, we're not taking your offer, then we're going to lose Will Anderson, and that stinks. But we're definitely not getting sniped on the quarterback by getting cute and trying to take the defensive player first.
Listen to that. Charles Robinson is telling you people, he is saying straight up, hey, they were going to take Anderson because they were worried Arizona was going to take Anderson. But then when they heard of the Titans' interest, they decided, all right, let's not play around. Let's just take the quarterback. Again, could it have been Arizona who leaked that to Diana? Maybe. Could it have been somebody else in the Titans building? Maybe. But who do you think it was? Do you think it was somebody else in the Titans building? Like assistant general manager Anthony Robinson? Or do you think it was the guy Diana Rossini was sleeping with? And that's why I just do not understand how they're not making a bigger deal about this. To me, blowing your team's draft is a fireable offense on the spot. If I was the team's owner and Mike Vrabel blew our draft and cost us a quarterback that we thought was going to be a franchise guy, and I owned the team, I'd have fired him right then and there, and I'd have fired him with cause. That's why I was shocked at how many people just shrugged it off. Even back then, well, Vrabel probably, they did that because they thought Stroud stunk, so they wanted to get the Texans to take Stroud, which, by the way, is not true because I know for a fact the Titans wanted C.J. Stroud. And I feel like people now are shrugging it off because C.J. Stroud kind of sucks. But that is immaterial to me, whether or not C.J. Stroud's any good. At that point in time, the Tennessee Titans believed that C.J. Stroud was the next elite franchise quarterback. Could you imagine if Kansas City lost out on Mahomes because John Dorsey, the general manager at the time, was fucking somebody and told the reporter that? And the Titans are going to stay out of this because relitigating what happened with Stroud does them no favors, and then it leads to a Cam Ward versus C.J. Stroud discussion, and they don't want that. Rand Carthon's not going to say anything because the Titans baked the NDAs into their contracts, and so while I'm sure he feels like Vrabel fucked him on the Stroud deal, he's not going to mess with the free money, but it's still a big deal to me. And I think it's a big deal because if your head coach is going to put his own penis ahead of the organization when it comes to a quarterback in the draft, what kind of coach is he? Is this the great Mike Vrabel? And yet I'm convinced Vrabel committed one of the greatest sins a football coach or general manager can commit. Number one is gambling against your own team. Can't do that. Number two is covering up some heinous crime in the organization. But is it number three, losing the franchise quarterback because you gave your mistress organizational secrets to get an extra blowjob? I care way more about the Titans than I do about a Spotify playlist of two people that we already knew were hooking up. So when it comes to the C.J. Stroud thing, I want answers. And yet, for some reason, I'm the only person in the world that seems to think this is a big deal. Caroline Fenton joins us now on the program, Yahoo Sports. Caroline, did you know? First of all, congratulations on the nuptials. Did you know that you were walking into this hornet's nest today when it came towards the topics at du jour?
Of course I did.
Okay, good.
Yeah, this is all you've talked about for the last 3 weeks.
Including at your wedding, this was all I talked about was Vrabel and Diana.
The photo that you and your significant other took at the altar was the Diana Rossini, Mike Vrabel, Arizona grasping of hands. Of course I knew this is what I was walking into. I didn't think we were going to talk about Carnell Tate.
Okay, so let's start off the top. Your initial reaction to the VrabelGate saga, and I say go all the way back to as long as you and I have been talking about this for.
I mean, first of all, I think more than anything, it's incredibly embarrassing. I think it is so embarrassing the way that all of this has fallen out. Let's go back to the initial page 6 New York Post photo. Was at the remote Sedona getaway for lovers. Embarrassing. And the way that they tried to cover it up too, when Mike Vrabel says, any other assumption other than just two friends, being at the same place at the same time is laughable. and then more and more and more came out. Like I just think that's so incredibly embarrassing. I think it's such a bad look for both Vrabel and Diana Russini as a professional. Because at first, like when it all first started to come out, I thought it was a significantly worse look for Diana Russini than it was Mike Vrabel. Not because she's a woman, but because her job is rooted in integrity. And her job is rooted in being trustworthy. Sure, yeah, you want your football coach to have integrity and to be trustworthy, but like there's about a lot of crummy people who coach sports teams. I need you to win games. Like I need you to not do dumb shit that hurts the team. But initially it was like, okay, Diana Russini clearly does not have integrity and cannot be overly trustworthy. And as a reporter, that's all that you have. But the more and more that's come out, how long this goes back, how deep-rooted this really could have been back to Mike Vrabel with the Titans. You're bringing up the CJ Stroud draft. You and I were both talking about how the Titans got totally and completely fleeced in that draft the next day after the draft. How it was an embarrassing look for Mike Vrabel and the entire Tennessee Titans organization. We went back to the S2 cognition test. There were even, thoughts of, did Mike Vrabel tell CJ Stroud to totally and completely tank that test so CJ Stroud could fall to the Titans to get into, within swinging distance of drafting CJ Stroud? Was that what happened? I don't know. I can't tell you that. I wasn't in the draft room. I wasn't having conversations. You weren't there either. But the fact that the door is even open for speculation that the head coach of the Tennessee Titans flirted a little bit too close to the sun to the point that this got out, the fact that we can even hypothesize, the fact that we can even open the door for a thought that for that to be the case is the most anti-Mike Vrabel thing ever. We are seeing, the Bill Belichick and Jordan Hudson, all of those things came out. I thought all of this is just so anti-Bill. But, the distractions off the field, making yourself a news story far more than the football is. That's not very Bill Belichick. It's not to the same extent, but I feel very similarly with Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel obviously said a lot of things when we covered Mike Vrabel with the Titans, but one thing that I always quote Mike Vrabel in saying, don't do dumb shit that hurt the team. And Mike Vrabel's extracurriculars, Mike Vrabel's relationship with Diana Russini is actively hurting the New England Patriots. So it just feels so anti-Vrabel. And the most damning thing are the photographs. It's the Sedona getaway. It's the fact that they said we were with friends, yet there is absolutely zero evidence that they were with anyone else. It was the photos at the New York City bar back in 2020. The fact that they have clearly and very obviously been having a relationship for the better part of, a decade, that's the most damning thing. And then you see the Spotify playlist, the questions about her children, which maybe we're going a little bit too far here. But again, all of these questions are fair, whether they're true or not, whether these are salacious questions or not. The window and the door for speculation is all open. But I think like the Spotify thing, it's all kind of the cherry on top. And the question for me of how can you be so freaking stupid? How can you be so reckless and so stupid to let all of these things come out?
I want you to go back to 2022, 2023, when you and I really started to hone in on the Diana Russini reporting about the Titans, relationship with Mike Vrabel. Before you saw those pictures in Sedona of Vrabel and Diana, what percentage in your head did you think it was that Vrabel and Diana were doing it?
I don't know if there's like a percentage in my head. But if you said, Caroline, you have to place a $100 wager on Mike Vrabel and Diana Russini doing it, yes or no, I would have placed a wager on yes.
Okay, when you saw the Sedona pictures after all the years of really following everything that Vrabel said or did or was said about Vrabel for 2.5 years, when you saw the Sedona pictures, what was your immediate reaction?
I was right. We were right. It was totally complete validation, first of all, because there's nothing like having a gut feeling and having zero evidence to back it up. Like I never, ever, ever would have, nor did you say anything publicly about that hunch or just that idea that we had, because that would have been irresponsible. And frankly, like crossing a line, because we had zero evidence other than just like something feels off here, something smells a little fishy here. So when I saw the photos, I thought, oh my God, I was right. We were right. After all of those years of thinking that could have been the case, we were right, because from the initial photos, it was so obvious what they were doing. I never for 1 second thought this was like a one-time thing, or just like the photos showed something and the real story and the truth was something else. No, it was so obvious from the jump what was happening.
Okay, then let's go back to the 2023 draft, because again, we've seen the photos that go all the way back to 2020, which means they've been stupping longer than I've known you.
Yeah.
And so this goes way far back. So now we have at least a little timeline in place here. The 2023 draft. I know you remember the details. I just played them for everybody else. I was sitting there that night, stunned to my core at the idea that the Tennessee Titans could have a quarterback that they love, that they are planning to trade for. The ultimate draft heist. Your biggest rival thinks they can get cute, take the player they like, come back and get their quarterback, and you swoop in and you snipe them and you get their quarterback. You're the most hated rival of your owner. And instead, Diana Rossini shows up in Nashville and starts reporting that the Titans are going to trade up to number 3. And because of that, according to Charles Robinson, Houston decides, let's not get cute. Let's take CJ Stroud. I was in such disbelief in that moment that actually happened. I'm surprised nobody else was. I felt like I was a conspiracy theorist the way I was talking about it in live time. But the fact that now nobody's talking about it, if we're going to talk about their Spotify playlist from 4 years ago, shouldn't we talk about the quarterback that Vrabel screwed the entire organization out of?
Let me just say, that's a shit ass playlist. That's a terrible playlist.
But did you notice too that half the songs on that playlist were in Jim Wyatt's post from 2023 for Vrabel's birthday playlist?
Well, I saw your tweet, and I think somebody else screenshotted Jim Wyatt's article, and I went through it, and I was like, oh well, yep, okay, AC/DC, yep, old school Sticks. Yep. Guns N' Roses. Yep. It was like a box by box being checked as I was reading the article. And so the Spotify playlist at this point, and like anything else that might come out, like screenshot from Diana Rossini's Venmo or whatever else might come out, it's just kind of like a funny cherry on top of what we already know is obvious. Like the playlist to me, it's like not the craziest thing in the world, but it is just kind of funny at this point. You know, going back to draft night, what did Diana say? My sense tells me that the Titans the Titans want to trade up, and my sense tells me it's for a quarterback.
Rand Carthon wouldn't tell me too, but my sense is...
She explicitly said Rand Carthon wouldn't say, but my sense is... Your sense tells you that? That's a pretty crazy sense, Diana. I don't think that your title is professional censor. I think your title is professional reporter. So yeah, it was so frustrating and annoying then, because we knew then where Diana Rossini was getting her information from the Tennessee Titans. It was directly from Mike Vrabel. So then we felt like, and we knew it was Vrabel let the cat out of the bag and kind of screwed all of this up. Fast forward to now that we all know what was going on between those two, it makes a bad situation and a bad look for Vrabel look significantly worse.
Shouldn't this be, though, bigger than just, oh, yeah, that's a bad situation? I mean, I know he's not the Titans coach anymore. I know he's the reigning coach of the year. They just went to the Super Bowl. But shouldn't it be documented by somebody that, hey, this coach put his wee-wee ahead of the entire organization, and it cost you a guy that you thought at the time was a franchise quarterback? If Stroud didn't stink, and right now CJ Stroud stinks, but if CJ Stroud was what we thought he was after his rookie year right now, this, I think, would be the number one story of the entire VrabelGate saga.
Yeah, I mean, I keep hearing people being like, well, yeah, the Titans, dodged a bullet there. That doesn't matter. That's not the point. But what do you want to happen? You want Vrabel to get fired twice?
I want ESPN to sit around the desk and debate whether or not that is the ultimate sin in coaching, what Mike Vrabel did.
I think the NFL at least needs to investigate Mike Vrabel for conduct detrimental to the team, because he obviously had conduct detrimental to his previous team. But I don't know what the Titans or the NFL or Mike Vrabel can do to make all of this right. What do you want? You want Vrabel to show up to the Houston Texans front door and beg and grovel and plead for them to give CJ Stroud back to the Titans? Like, at this point, it's just too far gone. Like, if Mike Vrabel was still the head coach of the Tennessee Titans, like, I think we'd be talking about firing him now. At this point, it's a moot. At this point, it's over with.
Okay,
what about the NFL needs to do? The NFL has to investigate Mike Vrabel.
What about a fine? What about $1 million fine for Vrabel?
What is that going to do?
If they're $1 million is a lot of money. They don't fine people $1 million in the NFL very often.
But what is that going to fix? What is that? Is that going to undo what he did? Is that going to magically, the Titans are going to snap their fingers and magically Cam Ward is going to turn into what we all thought CJ Stroud could?
No. I do think Amy Adams Strunk would love to see Mike Vrabel get docked $1 million though.
How much do you think Amy is loving all of this?
I heard somebody that said in one of the YouTube comments yesterday, they said, what do you make of the rumor that this was orchestrated by the Titans owner? And I said, have you seen her operate her franchise?
Yeah.
There is no fucking way that she pulled this off. Zero. There's 0% chance. Speaking of which, what do you think about the conflicting reports? A source close to Diana told me, a week and a half ago, I think, that they, the source, believed that it was a PI hired by Diana's husband that took the pictures. TMZ came out Friday and just said it was a big sports fan that saw Vrabel at the $2,500 a night hotel and shopped the pictures to TMZ. And while shopping the pictures to TMZ, also apparently had the wherewithal to shop them to Page Six. And they got out. Do you think this was a big sports fan? Do you think this was a PI? What do you make of that?
I think it was a PI. One, because I think there was just way too many photos from that weekend or whenever they were there. And also because I think it was maybe Felger and Maz I was listening to. They were talking about how they talked to a photographer. And the photographer was like, yeah, an iPhone lens just would not be able, as good as iPhone cameras are, would not be able to zoom in and take a photo that clear. I'll take the photographer's word for it, or I'll take Felger and Maz's word for what the photographer said, because they're all from a very long way away. And if this is a remote, private, romantic getaway, then these little rooms and these little bungalows have to be far apart from one another. So I totally and 100% buy into it was a PI hired by somebody. But I will say this, if it was just a big sports fan, that's even more embarrassing for Diana and Mike Vrabel. Because it shows how reckless they were. That some just Joe Schmo Patriots fan went on vacation with his wife and was able to completely blow up the life and career of Diana Rossini and potentially the marriage and family of Mike Vrabel just because he whipped his iPhone out and took a photo and sent it to Page Six. Like, for their sake, I hope it was a PI. For their sake, I hope it was somebody that was hired and paid to seek them out and take photos of them. Because if some rando off the street can ruin their lives, how reckless and embarrassing is that for you?
Well, let's use your parents as the example here, if I may, because your dad is a big sports fan. And your mom
would not know how to take a photo.
Not so much a humongous sports fan in my experience.
She likes sports.
But she probably does know who Mike Vrabel is.
Yeah. She knows him.
Okay, so let's use your parents as an example here.
Okay.
Do you think your parents before all of this knew who Diana Rossini was? Or could spot Diana Rossini at the grocery store and say, oh my God, it's Diana Rossini?
I think they would know who she is by name and knows that she's both my parents knows that she's like an NFL reporter, but I don't think they'd be able to pick her out of a lineup.
Okay. Let's say your parents were at the Ambiente, a couple's resort. Your parents are a couple. It's very romantic. Yeah. We hope the best for them. Let's say, and they have, again, I don't know how much money your parents have, but I assume they have the financial wherewithal to be able to spend a couple of nights at the Ambiente. So if they spend a couple nights at the Ambiente and your parents' bungalow is right next to Vrabel and Diana's bungalow, which again is still pretty far apart because these things are secluded out there in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Do you think your dad is wasting his time when he gets back from vacation trying to shop photos to TMZ?
I don't even know if he knows, one, how to take a photo, two, that you even can shop photos, three, I don't even think you would know like the avenues to do that, and four, I don't think he gives a shit enough to actually do that nor take a photo of it.
Nobody that's that rich is wasting their fucking time to sell those pictures.
Would you?
No. No, I would not. Like, I vacationed at the same spot as Brian Callahan one time. Now, he wasn't, partaking in any illicit activity, and we said hey to each other, and that was about it. But I would not waste my time. Do you know how much money I've spent on Amazon products that I have meant to return that I didn't return because I just haven't taken the time to take them to the Whole Foods 10 minutes away from my house and drop them off?
It is a super easy process.
And I still got other things I'd rather do. I do wonder, what is your thoughts on the media in all of this? You are part of the media. I guess I'm part of the media. What do we make of this? ESPN barely wants to touch this story. They did a story. They published it on a Friday afternoon, which is the oldest trick in the book. They haven't really talked about it much. I think there was 18 seconds of talk about Vrabel and Rossini on the third day of the draft. Peter Schrager reported that Vrabel was helping out with the draft process. Then he came back and he retracted the report. Every single person inside of the ESPNs, the CBSs, they're all afraid to talk about this for some reason. I don't totally know why. Even Mike Reese. I want to play a cut from you. This is from 98.5 The Sports Hub. This was Mike Reese. So Mike Reese reported at the ass crack of dawn on last Wednesday. Mike Reese reported that Vrabel was going to miss day 3 of the draft. And the story starts off with a quote from Vrabel. Not a source says Vrabel. No. Mike Vrabel is going to miss day 3 of the draft. Here's the quote from Vrabel. So he obviously talked to Mike Vrabel. Then he goes on 98.5 The Sports Hub. They asked him where he was. Here's what Mike Reese said.
Why did he have to miss Sunday or Saturday in particular? Like, why that day?
So I don't know the answer to that. I think I'll just go back to what he said, Fred, which was that his family needed him. And in this situation, like maybe they were going somewhere. I think they were going somewhere together as a family that maybe meant, I don't know this, but meant that the place had maybe some meaning to them. And that would maybe describe it.
Okay. So you talked to Vrabel. You are an independent reporter. You don't work for the Patriots. You're not writing for Patriots.com. You don't work for Vrabel. Vrabel calls you, and he says, I'm going to miss day 3 of the draft. Here's this long quote about how important my family is to me. And you're not going to follow up and say, well, where are you going to be?
I'm sure he did. I'm sure any smart person would. I'm sure any reporter with just like the teeniest, tiniest, ittiest, bittiest ounce of journalistic integrity would. But I don't think that he clearly didn't have the leeway to report what he was actually doing.
Where do you get the leeway?
I keep hearing counseling. What kind of counseling?
Well, again, where do you get the leeway to be able to ask Vrabel the question of, so where are you going to be on Saturday of the draft?
Well, I think you can ask it.
Okay.
But I don't think you're going to get an on-the-record response.
Okay, so then the appropriate way to handle that is when the guys ask you, where was he on Saturday? You say, I asked him when I talked to him, and he refused to tell me that. But that's not how this works. You know this.
And to report that we followed up for more information and he responded no comment. Like, we see that reported all the time just to tell people, like, hey, we did our due diligence.
And this is what drives me crazy. Mike Reese is a respected reporter. TD has a lot of respect. They work together, NFL Nation for ESPN. TD has a lot of respect for Mike Reese. A lot of people have a lot of respect for Mike Reese. But you're not doing the job. If all you're doing is taking the story that Vrabel gave you with the quotes that Vrabel gave you and you're releasing it when Vrabel wants you to release it at midnight, you are a PR arm of the New England Patriots at that point. or you are a personal PR arm of Mike Vrabel's. You are not working as a reporter at that point. And this is not the first example of this amongst people in this story, where it's either, oh, I reported this, Peter Schrager, but now I was completely wrong and the opposite happened because the Patriots texted me and told me the opposite happened. Seriously, that's bullshit. That's not media. That's not journalism. That's not reporting. That is PR. And if, again, this will probably get back to Mike Reese. I mean, I said he was respected, but he'll probably be pissed off when he hears that, because he probably looks at it like, I'm this big time reporter and how dare this podcaster in Nashville say this about me? And I'm like, how dare you not ask the follow up and not know when they ask you 3 days later where the coach was, when you're the one who talked to him?
I also have to wonder, because Mike Reese is, he's Boston through and through. This is not the first time that there has been a sexual scandal involving a sports figure in Boston. We saw it with Ime Udoka. We saw it with Robert Kraft. Like Boston fans aren't new to this. I never thought that the Robert Kraft story or the Ime Udoka story or any other kind of cheating scandal in
John
sport.
Farrell and Jess Moran.
Yep.
Might have been a little bit before your time, but still.
Haven't seen any of those stories be treated or handled or talked about with a certain level of, I don't want to say the wrong thing, with a certain level of hesitation that it feels like this story is being traded with. Like, what has to happen in order for this to become legitimate headline news that we can talk about? Does it have to affect the football team? Well, we've already seen that it does. Mike Vrabel wasn't at day 3 of the draft. That affects the football team. Like, did it need to involve a staff member? Did it need to involve a massage parlor? Like, what is the threshold of this being considered news that we can talk about, that we can cover, that's going to, be the lead story on the Sports Center, that's going to be covered by ESPN, that's going to be talked about by shows worldwide? Like, what is the threshold for this becoming no longer just news and gossip and fodder on social media, but not just something that we can talk about, something that we have to talk about, something that we as journalists and reporters and people involved in the media have a responsibility to talk about? Like, we are past that point, in my opinion, with the draft stuff, with everything that has now been brought up of Diana Rossini voted for Mike Vrabel and Drake May for Coach of the Year and MVP respectively. But that feels like a clear and obvious concern for me at this point. And how many times had Diana Rossini reported AJ Brown to the Patriots before anyone else even sniffed it? And I also saw an article about how the asking price for, oh my God, why is his name escaping me? The receiver the Titans traded a second-round pick for when John Robinson was general manager.
Julio.
God, thank you. Well, the Julio Jones asking price reportedly from Diana Rossini was a first-round pick. And so it made it look like the Titans really got away with some sort of heist when they traded a second. Like, all of these things, whether there was, nefarious activity behind the scenes or not, all of these things I think now can be looked at with a grain of salt and at least a little bit of a raised eyebrow. I think every interaction that Diana Rossini has ever had with the Tennessee Titans organization can now be looked at with a certain level of a question mark. That is news, in my opinion.
You mean the same level of a question mark that you and I looked at it the entire time with? I mean, I really feel like we deserve like hats and t-shirts that say like, hey, we were right on Vrabel and Diana.
I don't need a hat and a t-shirt.
I do. I don't know if you've noticed this about me. I need a Jared, you were right.
Oh, really? I had no idea.
I mean, I
had no idea, Jared.
I need that.
I didn't know that you liked to be right. I've never seen you take a victory lap before.
I need that. I need the Jared, I was right. I think there's two things at play here. First of all, I think the media is so afraid of getting involved in this because I think that they and the outlets they work for are afraid of getting pissed off or are afraid of pissing off the NFL. And I don't know if the NFL really cares about this. I talked to somebody in the NFL last week who was like, yeah, I don't think the league cares about this either. But I think they're afraid of pissing off the league. Why are they afraid of pissing off the league, or why doesn't the league care about it?
Why doesn't the league care about it? I mean, I understand why you wouldn't want to piss off the league, but
The
if
league
Mike
have a Super
Vrabel,
Bowl MVP who had faced a murder charge the year before. They've been through worse.
Right. But I'm saying, like, if Mike Vrabel was just sleeping with some random woman that we had never even heard of before, I don't see why the NFL would care. Whatever Mike Vrabel likes to do with his free time, wherever, with whomever Mike Vrabel likes to sleep, like, go crazy, have fun. But doesn't that feel like this is not just like some random person off the street? Like, this is insider trading football style.
I agree. That's the second thing is I think there's a lot of people in the media that are really afraid of, hey, they got, but I'm worried about me. And
I do think there's a certain level of, if you don't live in a glass house, you don't throw stones. And if you have any skeletons in your closet, I think this story is a perfect example of it, that even a Spotify playlist can be, an indictment. That you can go all the way back and into any of your tweets from 10 years ago, and that can be used against you in the court of public opinion. And I think a lot of people realize, well, not everyone is a Boy Scout or a Girl Scout in media.
Okay, let's get to some of the comment reaction here for Caroline. Kelsey says, a hoodie. What the fuck? Should have been a pristine blue diamond. Your thoughts on the airport hoodie as what is assumed, and I think the word here that we need to use is assumed to be a forgiveness gift for Jen Vrabel, which I'm not convinced of that either, by the way. But
better not be.
What do you think of the airport hoodie photos and the airport hoodie?
There is not a singular, possession that can undo what Mike Vrabel did. Like, there's no amount of jewelry and houses and cars and flowers that can undo cheating, whether it was one time or habitually with what it looked like with Mike Vrabel and Diana Rossini. But I'll tell you what it sure as hell isn't: a hoodie from the airport. Like, the Sour Patch Kids sold out? Like, was the I Heart New York sweatshirt not available in Jen's size? Like, that is, and I don't know what it was. Like, I think we're all just kind of making big time assumptions about, oh, it's a blue woman's hoodie, so this is just to, to say sorry. But if that's what it was, shame on you, Vrabel. Make $2 million a year.
I, by the way, do take advantage of the airport purchases. For instance, like when I go out of the country, I don't try to find something for somebody to buy. Like, now I have a kid, so it's, let's get it at the airport. Or Super Bowl merch.
Jack's a year old.
I buy Super Bowl merch at the airport on my way out, so I don't have to carry it and schlep it around with me everywhere. Mm-hmm. I buy my, Lindsay's nieces and nephews. I buy them stuff at the airport. Oh, hey, a Vanderbilt beanie. Here you go. But
did you cheat on them?
I didn't cheat on them.
Yeah. Is that your wife?
I think that's kind of the big difference there is I did not cheat on them. Jack
and Lindsay's nieces and nephews are all under 10 years old. I mean, you get a 10-year-old, a boomerang, and it's going to rock their socks off. We're talking about a grown woman here who is your wife, who you just cheated on.
I believe Ella turned 14. Danny says, I want a repeat of Jared versus Joe with Caroline as the moderator. Caroline, you did hear Joe Rexrode's performance on this program last week. Your reaction?
I do take offense, I will say. Joe has accused me of buying into a trope of female reporters sleeping with their sources. I take big time offense to that because I know a lot of women in sports media. I personally am just knowing them in general. I have never accused them of sleeping with coaches. I have accused one reporter of sleeping with a coach, or at least having the gut feeling, thinking maybe there was an inkling that she did, and I was right. So it's not a trope, it's a feeling and it's a sense. So, Joe Rexrode, how dare you?
I do feel like Diana tried this when it came to the initial report, according to the ESPN story. She called it a sexist attack. Joe was talking again about that trope, basically saying that we circled Diana and her relationship with Vrabel because she was a woman.
No.
It feels like the sex card being played here, and I think that's incredibly unfair when you're right about it.
Yeah. I would, if this never came out, then I would say, okay, that's totally fair. But we were right. And I also have never accused anyone else. I've never even thought to or considered accusing any other female reporter of doing that.
One person asked, when does Rossini resurface? She has to talk eventually. My question for you is more so, do you think this is over? Like, do you think that this is truly that there's not going to be another, oh my God, and that it's going to be just mundane bullshit pictures in the post? Or do you think there is a nuclear bomb coming down the pipe here on the VrabelGate saga?
I don't know, because like, to the question, when does Rossini resurface? She doesn't have to. She quit her job.
I don't think she should.
She quit her job. She's not going to get another job in media, I don't think. And so at this point, if I'm Diana Rossini, I'm like, you know what? I'm getting out of the limelight. I'm leaving this. I will let the news cycle do its thing. I'll let, all of this stuff subside. And I'm just going to focus all of my energy on my children and being a mother. That's at least what I would do. I don't think she has to say anything. What is there more to say? She's tried to deny the initial photos, and she was clearly proven wrong.
I think the next step, as far as the big stuff is concerned, is I think what happens with their marriages, because if you get divorced, it becomes public. And so I think that that's probably at least a part of it. And
maybe a big time lawsuit with her and her husband, because if your source was correct that the husband did hire a PI to take those photos, there has to be a lawsuit coming.
Yeah, but there has to be proof that there was a PI. And that, I think, is the hard thing. Is it's easy to say like, oh yeah, I think it's a PI. But the PI is obviously much better at covering his tracks, I believe, than Rossini and Vrabel are at covering theirs.
Yeah.
And that's the big difference on this one. And then I do wonder, the last one for you, Caroline, on the VrabelGate saga. Do you believe that if the Patriots don't have a good season this year, Vrabel could be in trouble?
No. In trouble in terms of like losing his job?
Yes.
No, I don't think that you fire a coach 1 year removed from getting to the Super Bowl. I also still think that even with all of this Rossini stuff, people in Boston still think that Mike Vrabel hangs the moon. For whatever reason, people think that Mike Vrabel is just the absolute man. So I don't think so. Robert Kraft included. And you think Robert Kraft is going to be overly concerned about, the sex life of Mike Vrabel?
I think Kraft is pissed about this because it brings back his story.
Yeah. And also it makes the Patriots a scandalous kind of story far more than it makes them a team fresh off of the Super Bowl. But no, I don't think so.
I said last one for you. I lied. I've got one more, and I know you got to get you out of here, but do you think Vrabel can ever be the same coach again? Like, do you think he can really be the same asshole that he's always been? Or do you think this will hover over him in every discussion when he's trying to talk to the team about family or accountability or whatever it may be? And do you think it'll be in the back of his head that, hey, I'm the national embarrassment. How can I hold these guys accountable? Because I think this is going to be like a young player that's on his way who suffers a massive injury and is never the same again.
I think that it will, and I think that it should. I'll use Urban Meyer as an example. Those photos of him sticking his hands up a girl's butt in the bar, we still talk about that. And anytime Urban Meyer says anything about what it was his quote about building a team and building culture, about family and supporting one another, being trustworthy, and we were all laughing at Urban Meyer of like, oh, really? Family and being trustworthy, that's rich coming from you. These are certain things that we just do not forget about, especially in a social media society. So I do not think that Mike Vrabel will be able to fully recover from this. I do think at a certain point, it'll just be kind of like a funny social media meme thing. But anytime he wants to preach not doing dumb stuff that hurts the team, I think it would be right and would be fair to say, okay, well, what about the time that you hurt this team?
Yeah. Caroline Fenton, ladies and gentlemen, Yahoo Sports newly married Caroline Lawless joining us on the program. Caroline, mazel tov. We are all so proud of you.
Thank you.
And we will continue along on VrabelGate. And again, be sure to watch Yahoo Sports Daily and like and subscribe to that. Caroline, thank you.
Appreciate you. Talk soon.
Yep, Caroline Fenton joining us here on the program. And part of me wanted to bring Caroline on because she lived this with me, whereas for you people, I couldn't say the night that all the CJ Stroud stuff was going down, I couldn't just say, they just lost a quarterback because they're fucking each other. But I could say that to her. And here's what's crazy about the Stroud thing. If you go back to 2023, I didn't even want CJ Stroud. I thought Stroud coming out reminded me of Mariota. and I didn't want Stroud. I wanted Anthony Richardson, which in hindsight looks really, really stupid. Now, I think the Colts have completely fucked that up. But I didn't want Stroud. So when they didn't get Stroud, I wasn't upset about it. But to me, who it was that they wanted was immaterial to the fact that the head coach, in my opinion, blew up the ability to get the guy they wanted because he told his girlfriend the scoop ahead of time, and she said it on ESPN. And some people have said, what if Vrabel didn't want Stroud, and this was Vrabel's way of leaking the story so that they wouldn't draft a player that he didn't want? Well, that's equally as bad, right? That is, I'm smarter than everybody else, including the people that are paid to make these decisions. And so instead of saying my piece and then the organization making the call, I'm going to do that for them. That is just as bad. And it doesn't matter if Stroud sucks or not. It doesn't matter if it was Mahomes or if it was Josh Rosen. It doesn't matter. It is the principle of the head coach leaking your draft plans to his girlfriend and your division rival getting the quarterback instead of you. That's going to do it for us. Great show today. Great participation. As always, we continue along. For all the people out there that are like, talk about the draft, talk about the draft. I told you yesterday why they took Carnell Tate. Albert Breer has a story today. It has in there why they took Carnell Tate. You're welcome. I did that yesterday. The idea that I'm going to sit here and talk about day 3 picks, nobody's going to watch that. Just deal with it. Stillman & Company. We'll see everybody tomorrow at 2. Like and subscribe. And tell all your friends to like and subscribe as well. 440 Sports. Thank you to Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Stillman & Company. We'll see you tomorrow.